My cousin Leo was an amateur hiker who lived for the thrill of danger. Before his latest trip, my mom predicted a massive storm and told me to talk him out of it. Sure enough, the storm hit, and Leo was relieved he'd dodged a bullet. What he didn't know was that not only did the entire hiking group survive, but there was a secret billionaire among them. To thank his teammates for their care, the billionaire gifted each of them a house. My cousin's family flew into a rage and stormed our home, smashing everything in sight. While fighting over a photo, my aunt accidentally pushed me down the stairs, killing me. My mom, trying to save me, tumbled out of her wheelchair, her head cracked open and bleeding. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my cousin was supposed to leave for his hike. Annie, honey, can you go talk Leo out of it? There's a big storm coming this afternoon. I tucked the blanket on my mom's lap a little tighter and looked up with a smile. Okay, I'll go right now. I turned away, the smile vanishing from my face in an instant. Only coldness and hatred remained. In my past life, I did as my mom asked. I helped my aunt convince my cousin not to go, warning him about the dangers of a storm in the mountains. That day, the wind and rain were relentless, pouring for 2 straight days. My cousin's family, who had been celebrating their narrow escape, happened to see a news report. They discovered that not only had the entire hiking group survived, but there was a secret billionaire in their midst. To show his gratitude, the billionaire spared no expense, gifting each of them a $10 million house. My aunt and cousin lost their minds. The moment the news broke, they dragged my uncle into our apartment and started screaming and destroying everything. My aunt shrieked, "This is all your fault for sticking your nose where it didn't belong. If it wasn't for you 2 useless busybodies, we'd be living in a mansion right now." My uncle chimed in, "Exactly. So what if your leg is busted? What are you, a weather forecaster now? You should have just died in the first place, then you wouldn't have been around to jinx our fortune." My cousin roared, "I fucking told you I should have gone that day. What big storm. They all came out without a scratch. $10 million. Do you have any idea what that means? We couldn't make that much money in 8 lifetimes." After they'd smashed enough, they grabbed my dad's memorial photo from the wall, ready to shatter it on the floor. In a panic, I rushed to grab it, but my aunt shoved me down the stairs. My mom, trying to save me, wheeled herself to the edge of the staircase, but my cousin kicked her down too. She tumbled down with the wheelchair, her head hitting the floor, bleeding profusely. "What are you doing here?" My aunt's voice pulled me back from the memory. Without realizing it, I had walked right up to their front door. Peering past her, I could see my cousin inside, arguing fiercely with her. I wiped the cold look from my face. With a sweet smile, I said, "I heard Leo is going hiking, so I came to tell you what my mom's weather prediction is." My mom's leg was injured, saving my cousin's life. The accident left her with chronic pain that flared up whenever a big storm was coming. Ever since my dad died in a car crash, she's cherished her family above all else. That's why she always put up with my uncle's family and their unreasonable demands. But this time I couldn't. Inside, my cousin turned his head, his face a mask of anger. He probably thought I was there to back my aunt up. A smug look crossed my aunt's face. She clearly thought the same. I stepped inside and smiled at my cousin, who had his back to me. "Leo, my mom said there won't be any rain today. You should definitely go on your hike." The looks on their faces were priceless, one ecstatic, the other utterly shocked. Leo jumped to his feet, fighting back excitedly. "See, I told you it would be fine. Even she says it's fine, so there's definitely not going to be any rain." "Mom." My aunt shot me a look, but I pretended not to see. "Last time, I listened to you and it got me a cracked skull. This time, your precious son is on his own." My aunt couldn't win against her spoiled son, and finally gave in. But I didn't get off easy. She threatened me with my mom's surgery fund, demanding I go with Leo into the mountains. After thinking it over at home, I decided to agree. If everyone else could survive, I should be fine too. It would just mean a bit of hardship, but I couldn't let my mom lose her chance at surgery. So, in the time before we left, I rushed out to buy a batch of emergency hiking supplies. A large hiking backpack filled with waterproof gear and items to prevent hypothermia. Thanks to my dear aunt, I'd been forced to research tons of mountaineering tips for Leo before, so I knew exactly what to get. I packed high-calorie energy bars, hand warmers, self-heating packs, power banks, a lighter, emergency blankets, compressed towels, and painkillers. I had it all. And I wrapped everything in waterproof bags. I had no practical hiking experience, only theoretical knowledge. But thanks to my knowledge of the last life, I felt prepared enough to handle it. When Leo saw my huge pack filled with nothing but emergency gear, he started to mock me. That's hilarious. When we're out there, don't tell anyone you're my cousin. It's a short hike, and you're bringing all this emergency crap. It's embarrassing just looking at you. I zipped my pack shut where he'd rummaged through it, turned my back and ignored him. I had to make it out of this alive. But whether he'd come back in one piece, well, that was a different story. As we were leaving, my aunt clung to Leo, nagging him every step of the way. You have to stick with the main group, you hear me? If there's danger, don't be the hero. Let someone else scout ahead, and only go when it's safe. Your life is the most important thing. Don't worry too much about anyone else, you understand? Leo, looking completely annoyed, just said, I know, God, you're so annoying, and pushed her away. Before she left, my aunt pulled me aside for one last threat. Annie, you're going on this trip to protect Leo. If anything happens, you better be the one to stand in front of him. If he gets so much as a scratch, your mom can forget about ever having that surgery. Got it? I nodded obediently. I know, Aunt Carol. I'll protect Leo. I waited until she was too far away to hear us. I took out my phone and turned off the flashing red recording button. Then, I casually opened a topographical map of Blackwood Mountain. I pointed to the afternoon's hiking route and sighed. Ugh, this trail is so overused. There are a million guides for it. I hear experienced hikers always forge their own new routes. Are you experienced enough for that? Leo rolled his eyes at me with disdain. Duh. You think I'm like you, spending all day researching and never actually going. I held the map out to him. This one looks like no one's ever tried it. I saw someone say that whoever conquers it will be a legend in the community. Too bad. I definitely can't do it. I'm too much of a rookie. Leo pushed my phone away, his face full of contempt. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw him secretly open up the map for that new route. My cousin and I took a cab to the base of the mountain. As soon as we got out, I saw 6 familiar faces. They were all the survivors from the news report in my previous life. The billionaire heir was among them. And who is this? The man who seemed to be the group leader pointed at me and asked my cousin. Just a neighbor. Insisted on tagging along. Don't worry about her. Normally, hiking groups have a fixed number of people. Adding someone at the last minute is considered an unplanned event. I saw the leader frown, so I reached out my hand to greet him. Hi, sorry for showing up unannounced and bothering you all. This is my first time hiking, so please bear with me. My polite attitude seemed to do the trick, and the leader didn't press the issue. He brought my cousin and me over to the group, had us all introduce ourselves, and then explain the plan for the day. This is a relatively short hike, about 9 miles, and we plan to be back by the end of the day. Although we've chosen a known trail on Blackwood Mountain, some parts are still dangerous. If you have trekking poles, use them. Don't try to be a tough guy. If you don't have one, find a sturdy branch. Most importantly, stick together and follow my lead. No one gets left behind. After the briefing, we officially entered the mountain. The leader, Alex, was at the front, but my cousin, refusing to be outdone, pushed even further ahead of him. The other women in the group were very friendly. Seeing it was my first time, they came over to chat. The one in the lead, Chloe, asked, "Nervous? First time hiking?" I nodded. A little. Actually, it was more than a little. After all, I knew a storm was coming, and I'd seen stories of people who died in extreme weather. Even experienced hikers face immense danger. For a first-timer like me, it was impossible not to be scared. A girl next to her, Lily, chimed in. "Don't worry, we've all been there. Just stick with Alex. We're all experienced. We won't let anything happen to you." I was grateful for their encouragement and comfort. After a moment, I decided to try asking again. If I told you there's going to be a huge storm today, Would you believe me? The women looked at each other and smiled. Chloe spoke up. We checked the forecast before we came. No rain. Don't worry. I knew with the sun shining so brightly, no one would believe me no matter what I said. So I dropped it and didn't bring it up again. I'm not very athletic, and with a heavy pack, it didn't take long for my stamina to give out. Grace noticed I was struggling and offered to take my bag. When she felt the weight, she couldn't help but ask, "Why is your bag so heavy? What did you bring?" I smiled sheepishly and opened it to show her. It was filled with emergency supplies, food, water, gear, and tons of waterproof bags. Maybe she found my foolishness endearing, because she laughed and called for the leader to let us take a break. My cousin up ahead was clearly out of breath too, but being an active guy, he wasn't struggling as obviously as I was. He shot me a dirty look and sat down to rest further up the trail. When the leader came over and saw what was in my pack, he couldn't help but lecture me a bit. The weather's good today, and the trail isn't long. You don't need to bring so much emergency gear. How are you holding up? Can you still carry it? If not, we can split it up among us. Our packs are light today, we can all help out. I could finally understand why the billionaire heir in my past life was so grateful to his teammates. This group was incredibly kind. Except for that spoiled brat up ahead. I didn't try to be tough, I let them divide most of my supplies. After all, I knew how many people would be on the hike and had packed enough for 8. When the rain started later, everyone could just take what they needed. We continued like this, walking and resting, until we reached the halfway point. Suddenly, an argument broke out up ahead. No. When we formed this group, I was clear. You stick together and follow the leader's instructions. This trail has been walked by thousands of people. What's the point? Don't any of you have a spirit of adventure? I walked up with the others and saw it was the leader, Alex, and my cousin. The billionaire heir, Ethan, tried to step in and mediate, but Leo shoved him hard. Get lost. This has nothing to do with you. I was exhausted, but seeing a walking $10 million opportunity get pushed, I found the strength to rush over and steady him. What are you doing? What did we talk about before we left? Didn't your mom tell you to stick with the group? Chloe chimed in. Yeah, we agreed on the route. We stick to the plan. You can't just change it halfway through. Who's responsible if something happens? Grace added. If you want to go that way, come back next time with another group. Don't throw a tantrum like a spoiled brat today. Nobody's going to put up with it. Another guy, Ryan, also took our side. The trail you want to take is blocked off. It's completely undeveloped, and no one has ever hiked it. The consensus before we started was to stick together. We're not going to risk our lives with you. Stop being stubborn, or it'll be dark before we know it. Leo, used to being spoiled at home, turned beet red as everyone ganged up on him. He was clearly furious. You're all cowards. Scaredy cats. If you won't go, I'll go by myself. When I'm famous for this, don't you dare come crawling back. With that, he angrily started to walk away, but Alex grabbed him. Leo, I'm the leader. There's no way I'm letting you go off on a new trail alone today. Calm down. No one's stopping you from exploring new routes. Can't you just do it next time? Leo never listened to reason, especially when he was worked up. He shook off Alex's hand and even dragged me into it. You think I'm a first-timer like her? I'm better than all of you. I have experience. I'm taking that trail today, and if you won't come, I'll go alone. Seeing that he was beyond convincing, I stepped forward and grabbed him again. Wait. If you want to go, fine. But first, you're recording a video explaining that you're doing this against our advice. Leo glared at me defiantly. Fine, record it. Whoever doesn't post this when we get down is a coward. I gave Alex a meaningful look. He sighed and took out his phone. On camera, Leo was arrogant and dismissive, declaring he would never hike with a bunch of cowards again. I rummaged through my bag, pulled out a share of the emergency supplies and handed them to him. Without a second thought, he swatted them out of my hand. The gear tumbled down the mountainside. Alex's face instantly darkened, and the camera captured the entire scene perfectly. After recording the video, Leo climbed over the barrier and disappeared from sight. After he left, I sighed as if in resignation. Before we left, My aunt told me to look after him, but I just couldn't talk him out of it. It was only then that everyone realized Leo was my cousin. Grace was the first to speak. A bunch of us couldn't convince him, let alone you by yourself. Besides, it didn't seem like he treats you like a cousin at all. I pouted. Well, before we left, he warned me not to tell you guys I was his cousin. He said I was embarrassing for bringing so much stuff. Everyone was already angry at Leo for his defiance, and now they felt even more indignant on my behalf. My goal achieved, I continued hiking with a sense of satisfaction. Around 4 p.m., the air in the mountains grew heavy with moisture, and raindrops began to fall. Within minutes, the drizzle turned into a steady downpour. Alex suggested we find a nearby place to take shelter, thinking it was just a passing shower. But I knew it wasn't. I caught up to Alex and asked about the mountain's terrain. Alex, is there a river up ahead on this trail? He guessed my concern and explained. There is one, but the riverbed is wide and not too deep, meaning we didn't have to worry about it overflowing. But in the news report from my past life, they said the river overflowed and washed out all the low-altitude paths. The group had barely managed to hold on and not get swept away. So I suggested, Alex, can we push on a little higher while the rain isn't too bad? This rain isn't going to stop anytime soon. We need to be prepared for 2 straight days of heavy storms. Chloe came over just then. They had found a small cave that offered some shelter at its entrance. Hearing what I said, she suddenly remembered what I'd mentioned when we first started. Hey, Alex, you didn't hear it at the start of the hike, but Annie told us it was going to storm hard today. Alex looked at me surprised. Chloe continued. I didn't believe it at first. The sky was so clear, and the forecast said no rain. But I believe her now. I nodded vigorously at Alex, confirming that I had indeed said that. Though still skeptical, he turned and told everyone to keep moving uphill. On the way, he came over to me. How did you know? I forced a smile. My mom has a bad leg. It aches before it rains, and it's more accurate than the weather forecast. A few seconds later, he asked, Did you tell Leo? My expression didn't change. I did, but he didn't believe me. He didn't comment, just turned and went back to leading the group. I grabbed onto tree trunks, pulling myself up step by step, and suppressed the wave of emotion that had just washed over me. The people who killed my mom and me in my last life. This time they didn't deserve to know. And they didn't deserve to live. The river was already starting to rise, and the current was much faster. After a quick discussion, we decided to take shelter in a small wooden cabin on a nearby high ground rather than risk crossing the river. The cabin was dilapidated, but it was much safer than the cave below. Just as we got inside, the rain intensified, turning into a full-blown downpour. Everyone's shoes and clothes were soaked through, dripping water all over the floor. Alex told everyone to change out of their wet clothes while I took out hand warmers and compressed towels from my pack and passed them around. In a storm this heavy, it was impossible to stay completely dry. The mountains were already cold, and staying warm was critical. The light outside began to fade quickly. Even though it was not yet 6 p.m. on a summer evening, it was almost pitch black outside. I took out my lighter and started a fire with the few dry logs we could find in the cabin. Alex stood to the side, fiddling with his phone, his expression grim. I went over to him. What's wrong? He sighed. No signal. I remembered the rescue from my past life, which only started after the storm had passed. Even with a billionaire's heir in the group, a 2-day torrential downpour made any rescue attempt impossible. So I tried to comfort him. Even with a signal, a rescue team couldn't get in until the storm stops. The rain's too heavy. He nodded, then shook his head. Leo, I've lost his signal. My hand, which was searching for food, froze. You could see Leo's location. Alex showed me his phone. It was a location tracking interface. I slipped a tracker in his bag when he left. I was worried, but now the signal's gone. He pulled up the hiking map and zoomed in on the spot where Leo's signal had disappeared. Here. The contour lines are too dense, and it's a low-altitude slope right in the path of this downpour. If he didn't find higher ground to take shelter, he's probably in deep trouble. I took the phone and stared at the spot where the signal vanished. When I finally spoke, my voice was calm. Alex, I've always believed that your life is your own. If you don't cherish it yourself, it doesn't matter how much anyone else worries. Don't you agree? Chloe called my name, interrupting the silent, four-way stare between me and the leader. The emotions and thoughts in our eyes were dark and unreadable. What's wrong? I snapped back to reality and smiled at Chloe. Nothing. Though she looked confused, she didn't press the issue. She handed us some food from her pack. I've got all the food in my bag. Eat something, get your strength back. I pulled a power bank from my pack and handed it to the leader. Keep your phone charged, whether it's to save yourself or someone else. Without looking at him again, I got up and walked over to the others. The rain still hammered against the roof as we sat around the fire, making small talk. Somehow, the conversation turned to me. It was Lily who asked, "Hey Annie, when we started, you said it was going to be a huge storm. How did you know?" The others looked at me with curiosity. I pushed another log into the fire. My mom has a bad leg. It aches when it's going to rain, and it really hurts when a big storm is coming. Everyone's expressions were a mix of sympathy and understanding. Chloe asked, "So when you told Alex it would rain for 2 days, was that your mom's prediction too?" I looked at her innocent face and couldn't help but laugh. No way. My mom's not a psychic. Chloe, then how did you know? I shrugged. Who knows? Maybe I'm a time traveler and can see the future. They clearly didn't believe me, taking it as a joke. Only the young heir, Ethan, looked at me with his wide, curious eyes and asked, "Can you really time travel?" The group burst into laughter. Alex came over and started organizing a watch schedule for the night. With 4 women and 3 men, the guys volunteered to take all the shifts so the women could sleep. In the middle of the night, the sound of the rain mixed with rustling inside the cabin woke me up. When I opened my eyes, I saw Alex and Ryan moving back and forth between a few of the sleeping bags. What's going on? I sat up, the sleepiness vanishing. Alex was wrapping an emergency blanket around 2 of the women. He took a second to reply. Ethan's running a fever, and Chloe and Lily are showing signs of mild hypothermia. Do you have any fever reducers? I immediately got up, dug through a side pocket of my pack, and handed the medicine to Ryan. Other than me, no one had been mentally prepared for this kind of extreme weather. After being drenched by rain all day and dealing with the sudden turn of events, their bodies were starting to give out. Grace woke up too and started placing hand warmers around the 2 women to help them warm up. I improvised a small steamer with a plastic bottle and activated a few self-heating packs. I poured mineral water in batches to heat it with the steam and handed the warm water to Grace. It was a trick I'd seen online for treating mild hypothermia, drinking warm water to raise body temperature. Ethan, however, was burning up, tossing and turning with soft whimpers. After Ryan gave him the medicine, he finally settled down and fell asleep. After a long while of busying ourselves, I realized the sky outside was beginning to lighten. The 4 of us took turns watching over the sick ones, catching sleep when we could. It wasn't until 3 in the afternoon that they finally started to wake up. They were in much better shape than they had been during the night. I had thought that with my foresight, everyone would be spared the worst of it. But fate had other plans. At 4 p.m., the cabin collapsed. The roof caved in while we were all counting down the minutes until the rain stopped. Luckily, no one was hit. We all reacted instantly, grabbing our things and scrambling to the corners. But it was clear the rest of the cabin wouldn't hold up against the storm. The leader had us put on our raincoats, grab our trekking poles, and carefully make our way out of the collapsing structure. After a brief moment of warmth, we were once again soaked to the bone. We moved slowly through the downpour, finding temporary shelter under a large boulder. The rain relentlessly pounded the rocks and the ground. After studying the map over and over, Alex came to a risky conclusion. Cross the river. We were right next to it, and we could see its condition clearly. The current was fierce, the water level was dangerously high, and it was still rising. But on the other side of the river, just a short distance uphill, was an abandoned temple. Well, are we going? The rain was a deluge, the situation was dire, but we had no choice. Alex led us to a large tree by the riverbank and pulled out a coil of thick rope he'd found in the cabin. He tied one end around his waist and handed the other to Ryan. Ryan, tie this to the tree trunk. Make it tight. I'll go first. You bring up the rear. The roar of the rain nearly drowned out his voice. But Ryan didn't hesitate. He quickly secured the other end of the rope to the tree and held on tight. The rest of us didn't ask any questions. We all grabbed the rope, pulling it taut as a lifeline for our leader. He used his trekking pole to find his footing, inching his way to the river's edge. The moment his foot hit the water, the raging current nearly knocked him over. Our hearts leaped into our throats. Fortunately, his trekking pole held firm, and he slowly steadied himself. Once he got used to the force of the water, he crouched low, one hand gripping nearby rocks while the other moved the pole forward. The tension of the rope fought against the relentless pull of the current. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he reached the other side. As soon as he was on the opposite bank, Alex untied the rope from his waist and secured it to a tree. He waved to signal us, then gripped the rope, pulling our only means of crossing tight. Grace quickly decided the order, and we began to cross one by one. The once gentle stream had turned into a monster, its violent current slamming against our bodies. Ethan's fever had just broken, and he was still weak. A huge wave crashed over us, and I watched in horror as his hands slipped from the rope. In that split second, I instinctively let go with one hand and grabbed hold of Ethan, who was about to be swept away. Grace, realizing what was happening, turned and grabbed his other arm, and together we managed to hold on. With me and Grace pulling, Ethan found a foothold in the riverbed and slowly made his way back to the rope. The rest of the crossing was tense, but without further incident. Everyone made it to the other side. The rain showed no signs of letting up, so we didn't dare stop. Following Alex's lead, we continued our slow climb uphill. Finally, we saw it. The abandoned temple. Though abandoned, the temple wasn't in complete disrepair. After getting everyone settled, Alex went to check the surrounding terrain. The ground here is high, and the structure is solid. We should be safe here. Hearing his words, everyone let out a collective, visible sigh of relief. I gathered all the usable supplies from everyone's packs and distributed them. Alex was frowning at his phone again. I walked over and asked, "Any news?" He shook his head, then suddenly froze. On the lifeless screen, a small red dot flickered to life. He quickly zoomed in, but just as he did, the red dot vanished again, gone for good. The screen was dead. An eerie silence fell between us. It was Ryan who broke it. Lang. Any sign of him? The phone screen went dark. Alex's knuckles were white as he gripped the device. His voice trembled when he spoke. "The tracker, it's at the foot of the mountain." Either the bag was lost, or the person was. After 2 straight days, the torrential rain finally began to let up on the afternoon of the second day. It wasn't until evening that a rescue team found us, huddled together for warmth in the temple. Alex explained Leo's situation to the rescuers, then headed down the mountain with the rest of us. As we reached the base, I saw my frantic aunt and uncle in the distance. Their eyes darted toward us as the rescue team emerged. When she saw our group, my aunt ran toward us like a madwoman, grabbing at each person's clothes one by one. With every person she checked, her face went from hopeful to devastated, over and over again. After looking at every single survivor and still not seeing Leo, she grabbed a rescue worker and shrieked, "Where's my Leo? Where's my Leo? They're all fine, so he's fine too, right? Right. And Annie? Where is she? She promised to protect Leo. Where is she?" The once domineering and arrogant woman now looked like a patient from a psychiatric ward, repeating the same sliver of false hope over and over. My uncle just stood there, staring numbly at the mountain entrance, his face ashen. Using the crowd as cover, I slipped away down a small side path. From behind a tree not far away, I watched them. Once upon a time, I had a happy family. My dad was a delivery driver, and my mom would ride with him. They had promised to be home that night to celebrate my birthday. But on their way home, they picked up Leo from school. Leo was 16 then, right in the middle of his rebellious phase. After my dad nagged him a bit, he lost his temper and threw a punch at my dad while he was driving. The punch knocked the steering wheel sideways, sending the truck straight into the guardrail. The truck flipped. My dad died on impact. My mom shielded Leo, and her legs were crushed in the wreck. After she was rushed to the hospital, she was saved, but her legs were so badly broken she would never walk again. When I got the call from the hospital, I had just put the candles on my birthday cake. I never got to eat it. And at that time, my aunt and uncle stood by my mom's hospital bed, holding their son, who had only minor scrapes. Every word they said was a knife in my mother's heart and mine. We never should have let you pick up Leo. We're lucky he's okay this time. Otherwise, your husband's life wouldn't have been enough. Even if both of you had died, it wouldn't have been enough to make up for it. That was the first time I ever hit anyone. As my mother sobbed, I clenched my fists and punched Leo in the face, again and again. I wanted to kill him right then and there, to make him pay for my father's life. But in the end he lived and my dad was gone forever. The pain of losing someone you love. The helpless agony of knowing you're about to lose them and being powerless to stop it. I understand that pain better than anyone. Now it was their turn to taste it. The rescue team led my aunt and uncle aside to calm them down. I blended in with the rest of the group and got onto the ambulance without looking back. A quick check showed that everyone's vital signs were stable. Only Ethan's fever kept returning, so he was admitted to a VIP suite. The other team members' parents all rushed to the hospital, grateful for their children's survival. I slipped out of the room and walked to the door of VIP Suite 3. 2 bodyguards stood like statues outside. From inside, I could hear Ethan's slightly hoarse voice. "It's fine. Let her in." Ethan's expression seemed a little better than it had been in the news report from my past life. I didn't have much time, so I got straight to the point. "Ethan, I have a favor to ask." There was an unreadable look in his eyes as he lay on the bed. He smiled faintly. "Go on." "I need you to send someone to pick up my mom. Have them bring our IDs and my dad's memorial photo. And I need $1 million. Right now." Down at the mountain, my aunt and uncle were still waiting. Alex had told the search team about Leo's last known location, so they would find him soon. I had to get my mom and leave before my aunt and uncle could pull themselves together. Ethan didn't hesitate. After getting the address and my bank account number, he made 2 quick calls. "An hour from now, your mom will be waiting for you at South Station. The $1 million is in your account." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding and bowed my head in thanks. Ethan asked, "Does this count as repaying you for saving my life?" I smiled. "It does. $1 million for your life. A bargain." Ethan replied, "Even though you knew I would have given you 10 million? My body went stiff. I looked at him, my eyes filled with shock and suspicion. His expression was calm as he continued to tell me what happened to my cousin after I died. "Your cousin still went to Blackwood Mountain later. He went alone and never came back. Your aunt couldn't understand why her son died when all of us survived our trip. So one day, when I wasn't paying attention, she ran out of nowhere and stabbed me." Ethan touched his abdomen as if he could still feel the pain. "That knife wound, it really hurt like hell. And after that, just like me, he was reborn. During that rainy night when his fever kept spiking, he thought it was all a dream. It wasn't until he heard what I said that he realized it had all been real." I said goodbye to Ethan and took a cab to South Station to meet my mom. Hearing about the fate of my cousin and aunt in my past life, I wasn't sure how to feel. All I knew was that each life has its own grudges and its own karma. But I didn't regret the choices I made in this one. With the $1 million from Ethan, my mom and I settled in Boston. On the train there, my phone blew up with frantic calls from my aunt and uncle. I didn't answer a single one. The news was all over the trending topics. The harrowing ordeal of the Blackwood Mountain hiking team. 8 went in, 7 came out alive. A photo showed a body bag being carried out by rescue workers. I watched a video of my aunt and uncle clinging to the bag, sobbing their hearts out, on the verge of collapsing. Leo's face was pixelated, but someone had already posted an uncensored photo. His bloated face was unrecognizable. Just like my mom's blood-soaked face after she fell down the stairs in our last life. On the way, my mom asked me, "Annie, that day I said it was going to rain, did you really tell Leo?" I turned off both our phones and looked out the window. Yes, I told him. But he didn't believe me. He wouldn't have believed me, even if I had really told him. I changed our phone numbers, erasing all contact with my uncle's family. But it wasn't long before I saw them online again. Hashtag hikers abandon teammate to die. Hashtag hiker Annie kills cousin Leo. Hashtag hiking team left teammate behind. On social media, topics related to the hike shot into the top 10 trending list. Along with them was a tearful video accusation from my aunt and uncle. Annie, as Leo's cousin, you told us it wouldn't rain before he left. That's the only reason I let him go. And what happened? You lied to us about the weather, but you brought a whole pack of rain gear for yourself. What were you planning? You promised you would protect him. You promised. Now you're out, safe and sound, but my Leo is buried forever in Blackwood Mountain. You won't even answer a single one of our calls. You took your mom and ran away in the middle of the night. Do you have any conscience at all? To everyone online, my son is dead. He was abandoned by the cousin and teammates he trusted most, and he's never coming back. Now his father and I just want justice. We want the truth. At the end of the video, they showed my call log. Hundreds of missed calls, glaringly displayed for the camera. If I hadn't changed my number, my phone would have been bombarded by angry netizens. A message popped up in our 7-person hiking group chat. It was Alex, sharing a link to the trending video. Everyone in the group exploded, condemning my aunt and uncle for spreading such malicious lies. Even through the phone, Alex played the role of the steady leader. Everyone, stay calm. We have the video from that day. It proves he left on his own. A second later, Alex posted the video of Leo's rant in the group chat, calming everyone down. Before I could say anything, Alex sent me a private message. The video is crucial. We owe you for that. I had a good idea of what he was getting at, but I was direct. You can never be too careful with people. And it was true. Even if it wasn't to guard against my aunt and uncle, we needed to protect ourselves from anyone who might later accuse us of setting Leo up. But it wasn't enough. In the video, Leo was clearly angry and acting out of spite. The part where we tried to talk him out of it wasn't recorded, so it didn't show how hard we had tried to stop him. Even if we released the video, our only defense would be, he insisted on going and we couldn't stop him. But those words were weak. We outnumbered him. Given the foreseeable danger, if we had truly wanted to, we could have prevented him from taking that new trail. But we let him go. If someone was determined to slander us, the court of public opinion would drown us in outrage. The hiking team would be branded as unprofessional. It wasn't fair. I opened my laptop. In a folder named Blackwood Mountain, I had all the audio files I had recorded. Everything from my aunt threatening me with my mom's surgery fund, to the things she told Leo before we left, to Leo's arrogant tirade before he recorded his video. I zipped the audio files and sent them to the group chat, tagging Alex. The video isn't enough. Add these. A moment later, the group chat erupted again. They cursed my aunt for her inhuman selfishness and praised me for my foresight. Annie forced to hike. The truth about Blackwood Mountain. Leo's selfish family. That afternoon, the trending topics from the morning were replaced by a new wave bought by Ethan. Within 10 minutes, public opinion completely flipped. WTF. Threatening her with her own mother's surgery money to make her go on a hike? What kind of aunt does that? And what's this about don't be a hero, let someone else scout ahead? So what, only Leo's life matters? Everyone else's is worthless. I'm actually furious. Your own life is the most important. Don't worry about others. Selfish people like that deserve to die. I was so wrong about the hiking team. They practically begged him not to go. What can you do if someone is determined to get themselves killed? At the same time, the rescue team revealed that a tracker had been found in Leo's bag, adding more weight to our side of the story. Finally, people from the hiking community came forward to defend Alex, stating that he had done everything a responsible leader could do and didn't deserve the backlash. Millions of netizens who had been ready to crucify us were now sympathizing with our ordeal and condemning my uncle's selfish family. Some radical users even doxed my aunt and uncle, leading to further harassment. The accusatory video was taken down from all major platforms, and my aunt and uncle went into hiding, their whereabouts unknown. That night, I sent a private message to Ethan. Last time, when did my aunt stab you? Ethan, the 8th day after her son died. It seemed that as soon as the traditional week of mourning was over, they were determined to make the other team members pay for their son's death. Be careful for the next few days. Even though things are different this time, after today's drama, they're only going to be more hateful. It wasn't impossible they'd try to take someone down with them. Ethan, I know. After what happened last time, I'm not getting stabbed again. I sent a similar warning to the group chat. My mom and I were in a different city and safe for now. But the others had given several interviews after their rescue, and their home addresses were no longer secret. Everyone was on high alert, preparing for another potential brush with death. 3 days later, my aunt and uncle reappeared. This time they targeted Ethan again. As he was leaving his office after work, they rushed at him with a knife. Their faces were twisted in fury as they screamed. But 3 steps away from Ethan, they were tackled to the ground by bodyguards who appeared out of nowhere. Ethan called the police immediately. He posted the latest update in our group chat. My aunt and uncle were convicted of attempted murder and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Combining his hatred from 2 lifetimes, Ethan made sure they received the maximum sentence. At last, the hiking team was truly safe. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. After it was all over, Alex sent me another message late one night. I still have to ask. That trail Leo took, did you know about it beforehand? I played dumb. What do you mean, did I know? Alex wrote, you knew it was going to rain for 2 days. You knew he would take that trail. And you knew that if he took that trail in the rain, he would die. I read the words he would die and suddenly smiled. I was just a rookie hiker, forced to be there. After typing that, I switched to the page of an influencer I had followed in both lifetimes. He was a hiking influencer. After the Blackwood Mountain incident in my past life, he had posted a detailed analysis of the mountain's terrain. Forced by my aunt, I had learned a lot about hiking for Leo's sake. Of course, that included this influencer's analysis, which I knew by heart. There's one trail on Blackwood Mountain you should absolutely never take. This one right here. The slope is incredibly steep, and the terrain is treacherous. If there's heavy rain, it's almost guaranteed to cause a landslide. And anyone on it is almost guaranteed to be a goner. So what I'm saying is, Annie, stop looking at your phone. It's time to eat. My mom's voice came from behind me. I got up and left my phone on the table. On the dining table was a small cake with my name on it. For the first time in 6 years, I was celebrating my birthday again. In the photo on the wall, my dad was smiling brightly, as if he were telling me, you did great, kiddo. As for that part about he would die, of course I knew.